A very good morning to all the viewers and listeners of Hello Kolkata podcast, a Kolkata Calling podcast series. Like every Sunday, we bring a very special guest from the city to share their journey, to share their experiences with our viewers and listeners. And we learn a lot about them and what Kolkata means to them and what they are doing in Kolkata, from Kolkata, for India, for the world. Today, we have a very special guest with us. Today, we are honored to have somebody who has spent the last 2 decades giving voice to those pushed to the margins. And this word margins will play a big role in our discussion today. Through activism, through empathy, and his unstoppable optimism. Today, we have Bappaditya Mukherjee. He is the founder and director of Prantakatha, an organization that has empowered thousands of young changemakers from excluded communities, be it gender and sexuality minorities, youth from slums, or even red light areas. Bappaditya wears many hats, and it's a slightly long introduction, so bear with us. So he, besides being the founder and director of Prantakatha, he's also the board member at ComMutiny, the youth collective. He is the international convener for the South Asian Young Queer Activist Network, SIAN for short. He's the CSR lead at Kutchina Foundation. He's also the social scientist with the Internal Ethics Committee at Narayana Multi-Speciality Hospital in Barashat. He is an alumnus of the prestigious International Visitors Leadership Program by the US State Department. And in his other pursuits, he's a singer, a storyteller, an economist by training, and a diehard believer in nonviolence and dignity. His journey is rooted in Kolkata, but his impact is truly global and universal. With that, let me bring in Bappaditya onto the main stage. Bappaditya, thank you for joining us. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me in this wonderful initiative. And Hello Kolkata rings a bell in our mind because with all the hats that you have shared, I'm also a very passionate lover of Kolkata city. So that's also connects us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Bappaditya, I know I gave a slightly long introduction, and we'll unpack all the things that you do and some inspirational work that you've been doing for the last 2 decades. But before we go into that, I think what would be great to know is the origin story. যেমন superhero origin story হয়. So if you can go a little back, a couple of decades into your past, growing up in Kolkata, a little bit about your childhood days, your early influences, and at what point did you know that going towards identity, social awareness, that would be your calling? If you can share that early part of the journey.
Yeah, Shubid. I grew up not actually in the city of Kolkata, but I belong from Barashat, which is uh, the headquarter of district headquarter of North 24 Parganas, which is just adjoining district to Kolkata. And I grew up in a in a decade when Google and internet was not heard of. So that was the time when I started my journey. And to be precise, um the reason that I felt so much pushed myself also to the margin, and then felt that this is also a very important space to be curated,
Mm-hmm.
was my early days in the LGBT movement, when in the mid 90s I was also coming out to my family as a non uh, so-called uh, heterosexual person in our lives. And I was in college, then I was also in the university, and that was the point in time when there were no internet, there were hardly any discussions about the LGBT issues on television. One or two articles once in a blue moon in uh, mainly English papers, not so much in vernacular. So that is a point when I actually felt that, despite the fact that I belong from a so-called Sabarna, upper caste, upper class Hindu. But the moment I could understand that I don't belong to a sexual majority, then
Mhm.
immediately I am pushed to the margin. I have seen a lot of anxiety, lot of challenges, lot of conflicts, even within my friends who were very close to me growing up in school, in colleges, in my local para. But then the moment, so that was another challenge in me, that I always preferred to be uh, outspoken, to speak my heart out, and always try to be on the part, or on the way to truth, because
Mhm.
I always felt that that's the most easiest option in life, to stand by truth, because then you don't have to wear multiple characters in you, so that you
Mm.
become only one, and it becomes light in the way to live your life. But
Sure.
then that's also comes with its challenges, because then that's what also happened with me. I immediately lost my friends, lost a lot of my supports, not too much in family, because my I'm also the only son in my family. So my father was a uh, income tax commissioner, and my mother retired as a assistant head mistress of a very well known school. So to them it was very challenging period to understand and accept me, because there were hardly any information. And I was also in a very prestigious college in Kolkata, studying economics. And so in lot of way I was in the sense privileged. But the
Mm.
moment the other part of my identity came out, I figured out that the identity is also floating, and marginality at the same time, if you could be very mainstream but at the marginal and the other end. So
Mm.
I start so basically my journey with Prantakatha did not start just as a specific decision to create an NGO.
Mm.
Rather, it started as a quest to figure out that how to survive in a situation where uh, you are pushed to margin, and you don't know how to communicate, negotiate, navigate, and figure out that how to survive. So my initial days were in corporate, then in television, very well-known television channels as producer, news producers, new anchor. Started with the uh, just as a trainee journalist. Then I grew up. Then some part with the UN, but that was something I was always pushed to, that to create a space not only for me but for many other young people whom I was seeing as my friends, but I was also seeing that a lot of young people who would be coming after me, to have a safe space where
Mhm.
they are not judged, they could speak their heart out and feel validated. So
Sure.
that's how Prantakatha began as an organization, more as a space, not as an organization initially. And we got it registered in 2006. And that's how in 2026 we will be also having our 20 years. So, in a nutshell, that is how it began.
Yeah, I think it's been a long journey, and I'm sure with its challenges. Bappaditya, you mentioned the time when all of this was happening, the mid 90s, late 90s, and obviously all of these topics were not in day-to-day conversation like it is today. There was lack of information, lack of awareness, misinformation, disinformation, whatever you call it. Uh, but being in a city and a state which has been known to be progressive, to be which has been known to be liberal, did you find Kolkata at that time in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you were coming out, when you were, the seeds of this movement were being sown, did you encounter more resistance, or did you encounter more acceptance and support from the larger fraternity?
Uh, Shubit, the idea of progressiveness
Hmm.
is actually not a very homogeneous understanding, or
Sure.
kind of a homogeneous thing in anywhere. So we might be a city might be very progressive in different areas, but when it
Hmm.
comes to issues which are never heard of, which is not very talked about, which is not very frequent in a period when um, I or many others were going through. Um, there was no chance of the city being progressive, because it was quite in absence, because you hardly have such discussions happening, you hardly have organizations formed, you hardly have spaces created. So the direct answer would be no. There was hardly any support.
Hmm.
And but I would not connect it to the progressiveness of a city, because progressive is not a very a kind of a monolith. It's not
Hmm.
kind of a very I mean, it doesn't appear to every section of the society or conversation. So, despite being progressive, it was a very lack of information, lack of understanding, not only in Kolkata but across the country. But yes, what was supportive in the city of Kolkata is that still in that period of time, um, uh, there were the first there were the support systems which already have formed, like council club, which was the one of the most earliest spaces in the queer India. Also, we all probably know that the first ever pride, so-called pride march in India, started in Kolkata.
Yeah.
The first time it was named Friendship March, and then after 2 years, it started as Pride March. So those were I would say, uh, the wonderful seeding that was happening in terms of the LGBT movement across the country and also South Asia. But the time has its own challenges, its own pushbacks, its own dark areas. So, to answer the progressiveness, there were a lot of new things happening, but in
Hmm.
the general middle class fraternity of Bengali Bhadralok, it was still a very non-Bhadralok kind of thing, which we all had to face. So we grew up in a situation where this was very much the identity of a person was very dismissive, threatened. And I was also speaking of period when HIV/AIDS and the challenges around HIV, misinformation about HIV, and social stigmas about HIV. And we all know that initially, when the human immunodeficiency virus, the whole idea of HIV, came to the notion of people
Hmm.
across the globe, in US, in Australia, it was in Europe, it was primarily described as a gay disease. So, so that was also the heaviness that we had to carry on our
Hmm.
shoulder. So, in different ways, it was a very difficult time.
Sure. Apadito, moving into the creation of the safe space that you said you very much felt you needed, and it was not just going to you know help you, but all the people who were at that time around you but did not have a space like that. Plus, what you mentioned is future generations who were growing up in Kolkata or around the country, they would also find a space like that. So And I know you mentioned something very interesting about how the name came about. And tell us a little bit about the early days of the birth of Prantakatha. How did you build that space? How did you gather the people, build the momentum, found your allies? Tell us a little about the journey of starting Prantakatha.
So initially, and till now, we don't consider Prantakatha as a only LGBT only space. We consider this
Sure,
as a youth space. And
sure.
why we started seeing Prantakatha as a youth space? Because while I was seeing that being from the LGBT community, I was being pushed to the margin, but I could also see a lot of young people who wear different identity hats, are also facing similar challenges,
Hmm.
despite them having all the talents, all the potentials they have, but they might be coming from a red light area. So the
Yeah.
geography or the address of your identity immediately invisibilizes you,
Hmm.
immediately pushes you to the margin. So someone, a very close friend of mine from a red light area address, the moment he goes to um, any interview book panel or somewhere where his addresses is marked, without even speaking about his talent, his potentials, he is getting erased. I have seen young people, young girls around me, young women who whose family or traditionally belonging from, say, so-called people who are in the sex work as a as a as their customary kind of tradition. um, Immediately their potential, their talents are are continuously pushed to the margin. I also saw that a lot of young people who are very talented, and have a lot of things to offer, probably also belong from very upper class background, but child sexual abuse in their early life has kept them frozen, has kept them very difficult to act comfortably in spaces. And
Hmm.
that was something which was paining me, that um, we wear multiple hats in our identity, and that is true for anyone, doesn't matter whether you belong to which section of the society. We hold many stories within ourselves which we do not feel comfortable in sharing. We are all very happy in sharing our happy stories, but uh, we are very challenged sharing our vulnerabilities, because that is how, especially men in our system, are built with, that the vulnerabilities are not for men, and
Hmm.
you cannot show them. And generally vulnerabilities are seen as weakness, not as your strength. You It is not seen as what Nelson Mandela once said, that the courage is not having the fear within you, but the courage is actually standing up despite the fear in you.
Yeah.
So that is the actually the kind of spirit that people wear, but most of the times it is not seen in that light, in that lens. So most of the cases I have seen that people at my age, domestic violence survivors, of my friends' sisters, people belonging to either some address which is seen to be bad, or belonging to a profession not by himself or herself but by their family somehow, um, are not judged based on what they carry, but judged based on what their background is. And that to me felt very uncomfortable, that to me felt very um,
Unfair.
very anxious.
Mhm.
And I felt that if I could join, because of my connection, because of my academics, I could join any mainstream good platform in the sense of earning. But I always believed that if I see something terrible happening in front of me and I don't have the opportunity, courage, and option to prevent that, then I am probably only earning my livelihood. And I was not interested in earning livelihood. Rather, I was very ambitious in that way. I wanted to earn life, and
Mhm.
that was the kind of feeling that was pushing me to create a safe space. Initially that started as a volunteering space, so we didn't have fund, we didn't have much connections, and creating from Barasat, going to the South Kolkata, and building your own institution there, that itself has been a very long challenging journey. So it was not very easy. So initially we started as a space where a lot of young people from my college, from my institution, from different friend circles that I have would join, just to have a free flow discussion, could share their vulnerabilities, could make friends, could have good share of happiness, and could also do some voluntary work that will give a meaning to them. That's how the space was created. But at the same time, we were continuously trying to figure out how it speaks of the unheard stories of
Mhm.
each of these individuals. And therefore, and that is the point of time when I just passed my post graduation from Calcutta University Economics Department. And couple of my very favorite professors, and we had with whom we had a very powerful and very deep connection and bonding. I was learning the idea of margin as an identity, as a space, as a political space, as
Hmm.
a junction from where people operate. And so I was also interested in creating that space of friendship, the space of discussions, as a voice of margin. So a lot of people who are holding those stories inside their chest who could
Hmm.
also speak about these. So was trying to figure out what the name of the space would be. And as I have told you earlier, I continuously believe that nothing it's nothing that we do, it is all thing that appear to us, and we
Yes.
become a medium to express that. So we were all struggling, my a couple of my friends, we were trying to figure out that what such kind of a space could be named. And once while struggling, it suddenly the bulb lightened
Yeah.
up, and we saw that it was in front of us. We were talking about pranto, which is the Bangla of margin, and kotha, which is story. So why don't we join these two and name the space where all such margins become stories of hope? So that's how Pranto Kotha began. And this whole 20 years of journey has been um, hundreds and thousands of young people who got this seeding space to become their own stories of hope for them, for their community, and for the whole world. And that's how Prantakatha, as a story of hope, as a space where uh, margin becomes magnificent stories, that's how it began.
Yeah. And I think since you have been part of the discipline of economics, I think Amartya Sen has written a lot of books uh, around this, not specifically, but maybe around this. A couple of books that come to my mind is, one is Development as Freedom. You cannot have development without freedom. Second was that Identity Breeds Violence. when you start labeling people into different identities, that's where the main conflict and the violence between different identities, different groups come in. So assuming hoping correctly that a lot of those early influences in your education and background, and you mentioned your professors, would have come into play. uh, Bappaditya, obviously you started this with a group of friends, a group of supporters in the early days. Tell us a little about how things are going today, because it's been a long 20-year-old journey, and many congratulations on for the upcoming 20th anniversary. Tell us a little more about some of the key milestones, the recognitions, and that came your way, along with obviously challenges that you faced, but those highlight the impact that Prantakatha has been able to make in these last 20 years.
Yeah, that's very interesting because many of these came very surprisingly in our way, because we didn't expect any of these to happen. We didn't know where to navigate, how to navigate, and where to go. But many of the I would say gifts have come in our way. So the first gift I would remember happened in 2009 during the parliamentary election, the parliamentary election happening in India. It was 2009, and we just formed our organization in 2006. So it was 3 years into our journey. And I remember we through some of the internet connections got connected through to a program which started in Bangalore from organization called Janagraha Center for Citizenship and Democracy. And if you remember, Shubid, that was 2009 when Tata Tea started a campaign called Jagore.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Tea, cha pilao and jagao. So the whole idea was to excite and inspire city populations to go and vote. And so Janagraha took a lot of agraha on Prantakatha, and they requested us to become their partner in Eastern India. So we started working on the same campaign in the 2009 parliamentary election. Doing that, we had the opportunity of meeting the then chief electoral officer, Mr. Debasis Sen, and we started with a 2 minutes discussion, which was the allotted time to us. Continued for around 1.5 hours. Mr. Sen was very excited with the kind of
He's a
work that we
wonderful
were.
gentleman. I have had the opportunity to interact with him on a few occasions. He's a wonderful gentleman.
So 2009 was the first time we become friend, and he offered us a unique opportunity. He said, "See, you might be interested in creating." I mean, inspiring voters to vote, but that's not the particularly that's it, not the issue with Kolkata, because Kolkata and in West Bengal there is always a high percentage of voting. But what we wanted to do is create a support system by the Election Commission of India in Kolkata, where people could directly reach to the CEO's office in terms of any challenges related to their voter card or the EPIC. So we would request, we were looking out to have a very sincere organization, young organization to work with, who will be providing the Election Commission of India the support service, um, so that people, there will be a one stop solution, or a one window solution, where all the people, anyone who is related, who is facing any challenges with the EPIC, can reach out to us, and we will be providing the required support to them, so they don't have to go to the political parties to
Mm-hmm.
get their EPIC and the challenges there, because then there are a lot of chances that they get influenced. So we don't
Yeah.
want, the Election Commission's office is all about allowing people to vote based on their own choices, not because of their challenges that they face. And that conversation between me and Mr. Sen developed into a 2009 campaign called Anando Babu. And
Hmm. Yes.
if at all you remember, there was big hoardings across the city with a dhuti clad Bengali Bhadralok Anando Babu
Yeah.
asking and requesting all the voters to call a number by the election commission and to resolve problems that they were facing. So Ananda Babu was the collective campaign created by Prantakatha and the Election Commission of India with the Chief Electoral Officer's office in West Bengal, and that was our major contribution and major first. I would not say that as um, uh, I mean some award, but to me it
Sure.
was the first opening of the canvas of the kind of work that we want to do
Yeah.
to create spaces for everyone. So that was the first Ananda Babu campaign that has happened,
And I'll
and
just add one thing here,
yeah.
Bappaditya, because you mentioned the 2009 election, and the reason I remember it so distinctly because it was my first election as a voter. Though I had turned, of age before that, but that was my first election where I voted. So I very much remember that campaign, and a couple of times that I had the chance to speak with Mr. Sen, he spoke about this campaign as well. So it's very interesting that how the dots connect, that we are speaking here today, but 15, 16 years ago you and Mr. Sen had met and this campaign had been conceptualized. So wonderful to know all the threads
And
that connect.
then it was also very interesting that after when just after this 2009 election, there were a couple of, I think 1 or 2 years after, there was a silver jubilee celebration of Election Commission of India, and there it was the Anand Babu campaign got awarded as
Yeah.
one of the best campaign by in collaboration with civil society. So 2009 in that way was a very powerful starting point of our journey, or a milestone. In 2000 and just couple of years after, in 2012, that was another very powerful milestone in our journey. Suddenly, so I was also working against human trafficking with young people going into rescue operation. So I got a call from an unknown number, and I heard that someone saying that I'm calling from the consulate office in US consulate office in Kolkata, and you are being nominated as for the prestigious international visitor leadership program and you are invited to visit the United States across counties of the United States as a state guest, and to speak about your work. So I didn't know how this happened, and the fact that IVLP is a very prestigious program
Yeah.
which currently holds a lot of chief of state, including previous Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, Pratibha Patil ji as their alumna, and a lot of international figures also. And so they selected me to be part of that prestigious award program, and I traveled across US as a state guest in 2012. And after I came back, another wonderful opportunity happened. That at that point in time, the Secretary of State for US was Hillary Clinton. She was visiting Kolkata. She was visiting India, and her first stop was in Kolkata. And there was 10 chief of organizations who were nominated by both the government to speak to Secretary Clinton, and I was the youngest of them. So it was only 6 years into our journey in the Prantakatha, and we were part of that delegation, and it was my opportunity to meet such a important figure in the international political scenario and speak about the work that we are doing. Then a lot of things happened, but then it was also important that we got awarded by Niti Aayog. We got awarded by um, uh, UK government. We started working with different governments across the country. And so yeah, so a lot of things, but most important to me was that slowly the idea that I have never thought could actually mean lot of things to a lot of people
Hmm.
started taking shape. People started understanding that this is possible. This is how a space without judgment can exist, and this is a space where people who are holding their identities inside their chest and feeling trapped could actually find a space where they could become the stories and they could become a story of hope. So I think that's the biggest gift
Yeah.
that we actually
And
got.
one thing that came out of all these recognitions and accolades that came your way, it was very interesting to hear that none of these you were chasing. It all seemed to somehow come your way. And I think because
Absolutely.
you were focused on doing the work that you were doing, and the work spoke for itself, and all of these partnerships, associations,
Absolutely.
recognitions came your way. And Bapadito, you mentioned that, not just a safe space, but the safe space actually making an impact for society, within the state, within the country. And I know, because obviously I was doing some reading about it, that Prantakatha played a tremendously important role during crisis. And whether it was the cyclone Amphan crisis, whether it was the COVID-19 crisis, Prantakatha was at the front line, working side by side. The police, the government, the community volunteers working together to provide relief, to provide support to people who were caught in precarious and even life-threatening situations, to bring this community together. And not just, as you said, obviously important to hold your identity, share your stories, feel heard without judgment, but going even beyond that, to start making an impact for other people who are caught in treacherous situations. Tell us a little about that mobilization, that movement during these crises.
Uh, it was less of a mobilization, but more of uh, our way of saying that we exist. Because
Hmm.
I remember in COVID, and most of the times, so this is also very important that when we speak about non-profit organizations, to say that non-profit organization or the development sector is also not a very you cannot put the whole non-profit sector with one stroke of color.
Again,
There are a lot
not a
of
monolith, not a monolith. Yeah.
monolith. Yeah.
Yeah.
So uh, our work has always been more as an experimental lab, um, and less of a charity
Sure.
organization. We
Hmm.
always tried to figure out a process, a way to solve problem, rather than becoming a kind of outlet to only giving immediate relief and not solving the longer problem. So
Hmm.
I consider, and we always inside Prantakatha have always tried to figure out that what is causing the problem in spite of all the supports, all the challenges, all the state provided amenities there. So, for example, that is what also brings us to the COVID situation, particularly because we were saying a lot of things happening. Government is providing a lot of support, but at the same time, um, many communities which are at the front line of the challenge were not being able to access vaccine, not being able to access healthcare, not being able to access protection. One of the communities that was in facing a lot of challenges was this children in street situation. So
Mm-hmm.
when Omicron was happening, in the third wave of pandemic was happening, and all the paper, all the media, everyone was speaking about that the children are at the forefront of this challenge. And yet we were, one of our program happens under Hastings flyover with 15 family who are there, with 60 mothers and children, and we were seeing that nobody is speaking about the street children. And it was assumed that the street children whose families, uh, most of the cases, they do not know how to read and write and don't have a lot of papers which you have to provide to prove your identity to get into the COVID platform and to get vaccinated. And yet it was assumed that they would be coming to the clinics and they will get their vaccines done, and these children are in front of everybody's eyes. They are on streets and no one is actually seeing them. And that's always have been our way of looking into things, and we were always surprised, until now we are surprised that a lot of things which happens are in front of our eyes. We keep saying that we are doing a lot of things, we keep saying that we are a very developed country. We ourselves are very supportive or empathetic, but when we see things happening in front of us, we don't get to see it. How both of these contradiction can happen at the same time? So during Omicron, we were very. I personally was very getting very frustrated because I seeing so many of street children are facing the crisis, and there is no direct uh, effort made by, in terms of the government or other organizations, to reaching out to children. So we reached out to the Child Rights Commission, in Protection Commission in West Bengal, and thankfully, since one of another very close, I would say, friend and supporter of our program, our organization, our work is Ananya Chakraborty, who is the still the advisor with the West Bengal Child Protection Commission and was the chairperson at that point of time with the Child Protection Commission. We reached out to Ananya, and I said, this has to be done. We need to do something for these children. And we, with support from Peerless Hospital, we raised the vaccine. We raised the fund to have the vaccine, and we pushed the system to reach out to children and their mothers and families, so that by one Aadhaar card, they could be registered, or with the help of the healthcare system, they could register to the COVID. They don't need individualized registration, and they can get the vaccine. And the moment you can search, figure out, and Google, and the moment we did it, we made it in the 12th of January on Swami Vivekananda's birth day in Peerless Hospital, along with the Child Protection Commission, and then it becomes a national news. And then the government started understanding that we need to make extra effort to bring these children to vaccine. Also, the same thing happened with the transgender community. We were seeing that they are on roads and they are facing these challenges and they don't have the access to vaccinations. So we raised this, and the moment date, we did the first vaccination with the in association with Techno Dama Hospital. Meghdud, a very dear friend of mine, we provided the vaccination in Cafe of Bit. So they have given that space to us. We raised the vaccine together, and we provided. That was the first in the state when the transgender community, LGBT community were given free vaccine, or both dose of vaccines through Prantakatha, and then simultaneously government started working. So these are the spaces where we took the first step, and we made it very clear that it is not enough to have system. It is also important that the system reaches to the right person, and that last leg of the effort is most crucial and important. and where we
Yep.
have to put our effort.
And I think obviously you mentioned Meghdut again, doing wonderful work, and I need to give it, give a shout out. Though he doesn't need it, I have interacted again with him on a few occasions. Make Calcutta relevant again is doing great work across sectors, across fields, and more power to him. Bappaditya, the thing that you mentioned, that these crises, whether natural or man-made, uh, actually expose the fragmentation in society, right? When there is a crisis, the marginalized sections become even more marginalized. And what you mentioned is, having a digital platform is not going to solve the problem for them, because these people are unable to access that platform. Um, from that learning, and obviously you took leadership through Prantakatha, worked on the front lines, working through these disasters, through these crises, what would be some of the leadership lessons that you imbibed, or you learned about yourself, that you could do as an organization, as an individual, as a community?
The first lesson is that don't assume things will happen by its own.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that uh, the system has to make efforts to include. Inclusion doesn't happen by its own.
Yeah.
We are, as you have said, we are a society which has a lot of fragmentation in terms of privileges. Let us be very clear and uh, acknowledge that every one of us carry one or other kind of privilege,
Mm-hmm.
and remaining oblivious of the fact that we don't have a privilege is the first set of eraser that we do to a marginalized community.
Sure.
So put it in a simple term is, we might have money, you might have access, you might have say a digital platform, but the care and love and empathy is extremely relevant as a leader to understand that what is the gap which is happening, why, if people are not being able to access something, why they are not being able to access, to see that the last. So it's nothing new what Bapu Gandhiji have always said, to reach out to the last in the row, the last
Yes.
person in the country. So a development marker is not how many buildings and roads you are building. The development marker is whether your system is reaching to the last person in your country.
Yeah.
And you cannot remain indifferent to the fact that I am putting a system in place, but you have to be always very mindful of the fact, if it is, if which is also the SDG goals and the whole millennium development goal to sustainable development goal, the whole idea is to keeping no one left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So, be it Gandhi's philosophy, be it Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, or be it leaving no one behind, these all actually says one thing in common, that your leadership is only a powerful one if that helps the system to reach out to the last person in the community. If you look into the last person in the community's lens, and if you could put yourselves in the last person of the community's shoe, and if you feel that that person is included, then the system is progressive, then the system is inclusive, then the country is progressing. It is not based on how much, what is your GDP, what is
Mm-hmm.
your production, what, how many trillion dollars your economy you are making into, but it is whether your everything is reaching to the last person in the system. Otherwise, does not matter how much money you make in the system, your system will always start falling behind. And the idea of becoming world leader actually staying with that extra effort that the system will be taking care of in terms of taking the last person to be included. So that's the biggest lesson that I have learned in my whole 20 years and more journey.
And Papa, this is wonderful to hear. And I can see some influences of Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, uh, the lessons that you carry with you. Uh, Tell us a little more about taking these lessons when you are, navigating social structures, policy making, advocacy, activism as a change maker, especially for yet another marginalized community which you referred to is the queer youth community, the trans community. You have been associated with Sion. Tell us a little more about your association. You hold multiple positions where you are making change and making impact. Tell us a little more about this ethical activism, uh, this alignment with certain spiritual ideals, believing in non-violence, believing in empathy. Tell us a little more about that journey.
It's a very interesting area, and a passionate area for me, because my whole journey has been shaped by the holy trio, Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharoda, and Swamiji. And I have been heavily influenced by one of my mentor, Swami Atma Priyanandaji, who is who's when I was in my 11th standard, I first met him and we become a very good friend, and that friendship still continues. He is also in our board. That time he was the principal of Belur Vidya Mandir. Later he became the one who uh, developed the whole Belur University through
Mhm.
his shoulder with everything. And what I have learned through this association is, without a reason, a very deep reason why you are doing what you are doing, your work will not become sustainable. Your work will not do the impact that you are supposed to make. That one thing is the understanding that why you are doing, and it is not just for your name, your fame, or the money that you will be making through it. It is
Mhm.
actually for the kindness and the feeling of this kindness for which you are doing it. So there is a wonderful poem by Swami Vivekananda whose last two lines we most of all the Bengalis know: Jibe prem kore je জন সেই জন সেবিছে ঈশ্বর. But it is actually a long poem titled Shokhar Prati, to the comrade, and it says, প্রেম প্রেম এই মাত্র ধন. So he says that I have tried all the ways to learn. I have put my whole energy into reading. I have put my whole energy into uh, doing lot of uh, austerity, and I have put a lot of challenges into me. But at the end, what I have understood, that if I could understand what the love is actually, what binds the whole universe to me, then I found God. And I
Mhm.
think that is actually the biggest thing, that if you don't feel love inside you for anyone whom you are serving, then your service will not mean anything to the system, to the whole universal system. And that's what is Shivgana Jeev Sheva. So it is not about it's the purity of purpose, as Shamiji has always said. If you
Mhm.
have the purity of purpose, things will automatically happen to you, and your impact will automatically happen. You don't have to chase it. And there was a very important campaign note by Swami Vivekananda called My Campaign Strategy, Amar
Mhm.
Shamor Niti. and that says that you don't have to reach out to advertisement, you don't have to speak with a loudspeaker. Keep one good thought in you and you become one with that thought. Rest will automatically come to you. Now this is very, it might sound very very ideological, very
Abstract.
not only abstract. A lot of people have also told me euphoric, but I have seen this actually happening in our work, in work of many people. I could also mention one of a very well-known figure in development work who is also very close to me personally, Anshu Gupta, the founder of Gunj. And Anshu Bhaiya says post COVID, he was infected with COVID. A lot of challenges have happened in his personal life. And he said, uh, दावा और एंड दुआ, ये दोनों का जरूरत एक साथ होता है. So I have learned that in a hard way, and I feel that if you are speaking about the spiritual power, I think that is actually the power that holds you throughout the crisis. And if you actually understand that why you are doing, if your heart cries for the last person, if your heart cries for something happening in front of you, and then you do it, then only it will make sense.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if you do it for other purposes, it will not have the impact that you are trying to make. And it doesn't depend on how much you are spending or how much you are scaling your effort. It actually depends on how deep you are going inside of you, inside of your thinking, and how deep you are putting your seeds. So that's, I think, my understanding about doing work, social work.
No, this is actually very heartening because I think somewhere, obviously, because family-wise, we've all grown up in the tradition and the teachings of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or Swami Vivekananda. We already always have the complete works of Swami Vivekananda at home. Very few of us have actually managed to read it. I have tried, but I think what you were explaining and what has also appealed to me specifically post COVID, and I'm just sharing a little bit here, uh, was the idea of Advaita Vedanta, what is inside is outside. And what you explained in your own way, I think, seemed like a intersection of somewhere karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. So out of devotion, out of love, out of knowledge, out of knowing who you are actually, and then doing selfless work, uh, and continue to doing that work without expecting any result. I think all of these three come out very beautifully in your life, your lived experiences, and the work that you are doing. So thank you for sharing that, and it all obviously ties back together because my foray into, or my little bit of dabbling into Advaita Vedanta, I think I'm just barely scratching the surface, I know, but it makes sense to me. Like, apart from all the theories and all the schools of thought that are there, this one just seems more attractive to me, where somewhere behind the screen there is truth that we can actually strive for. uh, Moving from there, Bappaditya, uh, you know you are a multifaceted personality. We started with identity, but you also are into singing, oration, storytelling, bringing mythology, bringing performance arts into the work that you do. You are an expert in terms of the power of symbols. You studied them intricately. You understand the importance of art in making social change. Uh, Take us a little bit about your experience through art influencing inclusion, art influencing, let's say, public engagement, public discourse, that sort of brings into focus again the marginalized sections, which often get ignored in conversations.
I think that is what uh, the beauty of culture is, be it singing, be it dance, be it music, be it painting, that it unites without even asking it to do that work of becoming united very outwardly. That is what the beauty of these things. And we have experimented that in various ways. For example, currently we are also the CSR, corporate social responsibility partner to HSBC Bank, and we created a space for trans community youngsters and LGBT youngsters to express their stories through dance, music, and different kinds of cultural expressions, so that when it speaks to the people, it doesn't speak about volume of theories. It speaks about, again, what connects all the people to one feeling is the feeling of love. If you can create a language of love, which is actually culture, which is actually music, which is actually song or painting, which are could be the language of love, without having the challenges of communicating through language. And that is what the beauty of the cultural space is, where it says what it want to say through movement, with color, with music, and it says with strong conviction. So in terms of our work with red light area girls, our work with marginalized youth, we always created a platform for young change makers. And we are in actually trying to build one important platform for young people, called ALO. So we are very fascinated with making words. So ALO is also an abbreviation, which is Arts Liberating One. So and which is also about light. So we are trying to figure out that what is the methodology, why art actually liberates people,
Mm-hmm.
because it also helps people to uh, I mean, allow people to become, off their guards. They can communicate. I have learned this very powerfully with another. I called also her as my mother, Olokananda Rai. I am
Mm-hmm.
so close to her, and I have seen that how powerfully her engagement with the prisoners or the convicts with inside prison liberates people from the mindset of cruelty, mindset of vengeance, mindset uh, of doing something bad to people. So that liberation is actually about correction. So when we talk about jail or prison as a correctional institute, how do we do make that correction? If at all we can make that correction. And to me, any correction or any change, most important if it is done with love and with culture. So Alo, as our uh, one of the would be happening initiative is actually trying to figure out all these nuances of how
Mm-hmm.
it liberates people from not only the outside challenges, but also inside stories. And I keep saying, and Munidi also keeps saying the same thing, we all together, that we are prisoner in our own mindset as well. So it's not that the prisoners are who are living in the four walls of the prisons, but it is
Mm-hmm.
also we who are present in our own mindset of prejudice, of challenges, of other things. So how do we liberate ourselves from this from the mediocrity, from the smallness of the world. And that's where Tagore's conversation and the story and the song comes in. I always remember Shorbo Khorbo Tare Dohe Tobo Krodho Daho He Bhoirav Shakti Dao Bhakto Pane Chaho. So it's how this connects.
Mm-hmm.
সর্বখর্ব তারে শেষ করতে হবে. We have to I mean uh, push all our mediocrities and small things in our own life to the
Mm-hmm.
margin, and then we become the main. I would also remember, and I would like to share this experiment that Attopriyanandaji has always worked with our youngsters, shown them that he generally takes a whole blackboard and
Mm-hmm.
then puts a square with a chalk, and then puts a big dot inside of that square, and then he says that suppose this the circle in the square, and he says think this circle as the bad in you. Now how
Mm-hmm.
do you erase it? You cannot erase it by the duster. What is the other option of erasing it or making it small? Everybody starts thinking that how could we do it without erasing it with the duster. Then Maharaj shows that just by making the square around the circle bigger
Bigger. Yeah.
and bigger and bigger and bigger, the dot becomes so smaller and smaller and smaller. So
Mm-hmm.
you create your Aadhaar, the way you are holding yourselves bigger, then
Mm-hmm.
whatever the smallness that you have inside becomes so tiny that you will not be able to find it anyway. I think that is where Rabindranath, where Shamiji, where Gandhi, where the whole stories gets united. That we have to push our smallness to the minute dot by scaling our own mindset bigger, 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 and bigger.
And this is beautifully said, and the more you expand your mind, the more marginalized people come inside, and there is no boundary left for people to be outside. Bappaditya, I know I had budgeted 1 hour, and I had requested we'll do 1 hour, but obviously talking to you, we've overshot, but no harm. uh, I would like to sort of bring back, the conversation around some of the other initiatives that you are working with, and maybe briefly you can talk a little about Sayan. You can talk a little about your work with Kutchina Foundation. You can talk a little about your work with Narayana, and I think our viewers would be, benefited to know all the initiatives that are happening, multiple things that you are associated with and sort of interconnected, and with obviously many luminaries, many change makers who are working with you.
So, for example, we currently just, I think 2 months back, we organized a Changemakers Connect in Kolkata with a Noida based organization called ISDM, International School of Development Management, which for the last 7 years is doing creating post graduation program in development management. And there is a lot of dearth of development managers in from the management point of view in the sector, and ISDM is doing that. One of the co-founder of ISDM, Gaurav Shah, who is a very close friend of mine, and we together took this onus of again. His passion is also with Kolkata because he grew up in Kolkata. He then with BITS Pilani, then with IIM Kolkata, and then after many stint with corporate founded ISDM. And so we continuously trying to understand and expand the scope of development work to the current generations and the youngsters, which is just not about working in an NGO. but it is also about consulting. It's also about working with international global audit firms, because nowadays everything, if the government even wants to get money from international funders, donor, be it WHO, be it IMF, be it World Bank, be it others, they also need to develop their own project proposals. They have to budget it. They have to show is why it is happening. So there are a lot of need for talented youth in this sector. So that is another work that we are doing to make people, young people, understand that you don't only look for corporate corporate jobs and 9 to 5 jobs, but it is also important that you expand your opportunity in development sector, where you can do good work and also earn good money. So it's not that you don't earn money and you only keep doing your work. So that's on the job front. That is something what we are doing. With the Kutchina Foundation, my association with the Kutchina company, which is, we all know, is a well-known venture for-profit company with the Kutchina Appliances, which is into homemaking business, home different things which homemakers need. I am, with the request of their board, I am holding their corporate social responsibility heading as the lead of the CSR for the last 10 years. And so there are lot of work in the CSR world, which also needs a lot of talented youth who knows how to create models, who know how to create impacts. And in the last 10 years of Kutchina Foundation's work under my leadership, and with Mr. Namit Bajoria, who is the owner of Kutchina company, we developed a wonderful program called Kritika Fellowship, which is for young women startups, social entrepreneurs across the country who are trying to do something, solving their own challenges and the challenges of the community across the country. And we currently have 25 such fellows from Dimapur in Nagaland to Jaipur in Rajasthan. So someone working with the Naga street vendors in Dimapur, woman, someone working with domestic violence survivors and making them a kitchen outlet, a cloud kitchen in Assam, named the Lunchbox, to the first women tribal journalist from Koya tribe in Odisha, to Jacinta Karketta, the most well-known now, the tribal poets in India, to Mumbai, where our women have developed, the fellows have developed wonderful restaurant food joints, which is inclusive food joints named Guftagu. So these all sorts of initiatives which are funded by Kutchina Foundation, we provide with a 6 lakhs minimum grants over spend over 3 years time, and with mentoring and the support. So that's another wonderful space that we have been able to curate, a women only space where a lot of women change makers are making changes and creating huge impact. So that's my work with Kutchina Foundation. We also have our a space which is provided to women organization free of cost in South Kolkata, which is our Kutchina auditorium, which we provide. So these are part of our CSR activities that we are doing with the Kutchina company. That apart, in Narayana Health, they have approached me to become part of their internal ethics committee, which looks after. Now there are a lot of research proposals that comes with all the hospitals that they are doing, and by the mandate of the central government, you always need to have a social scientist in the group who will be evaluating how much these research are actually, again, the conversation that we had is reaching to the for the benefit of the last person of the society. And apart from that, Sayan is one initiative that we have developed, and is very close to my heart, is the South Asia Young Queer Activist Network. And this is uh, so-called the SAARC countries, the India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. These are countries, like I navigated my way from marginality to mainstream. There are so many youngsters now working in the most difficult political and state situations in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in other places where the trans community, where the LGBT community are facing a lot of stigma, a lot of ostracization, a lot of pushback from the state. And yet, how wonderfully I have such a wonderful group of trans women, my sisters from Ho Chi Minh Islam, from Bangladesh to Nepal to Sri Lanka, who are holding with so much of courage, despite so much of political unrest and challenges, their identity, and holding spaces for survival for trans women, men, and others in those difficult areas. And Cyan is that platform where we annually we try to meet once somewhere, most of the times in Nepal, so that everybody could come in Kathmandu, and we share, we figure out where we learn and co-learn from each other, and try to create a navigational space for human rights. So, in short, these are the kind of spaces that I curated, and
You are
I'm
doing
associated.
no, no, you're doing some amazing work, and I'm sort of wondering, how you find time to do all of this together. But um, Bappaditya, it has been a real honor, and a lot of inspiring stories that you shared. For our listeners and viewers, uh, those who want to get involved in Prantakatha, those who want to come and work and volunteer, let us know what would be the best way to reach out. That's one. And second, what would be your message to young change makers in Bengal and beyond who are listening to us to take up leadership roles that can actually make impact from your experience that you've learned?
One, I'm also part of a board of the national organization called the Youth Collective. Why community? It's amalgamation of two words, commute, uh, community and mutiny. So
Yeah.
community, the youth collective, is a national platform where young change makers, we support young change makers across the country. So I'm at the board of the community, and community is creating spaces for young change makers. And we all believe that the first mutiny is within. Like I have said myself, a lot of other people, they feel the first mutiny within. And so reach out to, if you are in part of other part of the country, please reach out to the CYC community, the youth collectives website, Facebook page, email, all there. You can reach out to them. If you want to reach out to Prantakatha in West Bengal, you can just go to our just Google on Prantakatha, and you will find our website and everything. But at the same time, I would my not advice, but my submission to the youngsters would be that don't wait for something happen to you and then you take up charges. Then it will be too late.
Hmm.
If you break barriers, if you believe in you, if you say that if you are able to make changes right here, right now, take that simple one step. I remember Mother Teresa once told, once she shared that don't wait for the leaders to come and do the work. You be the leader and start your work. And it starts with most simple things in your house. I was just thinking yesterday that now in most of our houses we have these two dustbins, one for the solid wastes and for other the plastic, the non-organic waste and the non-organic waste. Even that, most of the times, most of the families, they do not segregate that carefully. And I was seeing the last day someone in a vat from the municipal office. They were segregating that before putting it to the to the dustbin. The challenge is that because you are not doing your own work in your own household, which is supposed to be your work, someone
Hmm.
else has to do that work. If you
Yeah.
are not protecting, responding to the call, which is your call, which is happening at your end, someone else has to do it. And it is actually comes back to the fact that we are actually have taken the future in, we have borrowed the future from our future generation. So
Yeah.
what we are doing is going to affect our future generation. So
Yeah.
if you are at all, you don't have to become a social change maker, but even if you are being a simple uh, doing anything other, take responsibility and act. Second thing, I'd also like to say that if you really want to do uh, uh, make profession out of social work, there are so much of opportunities now in the social work field, from developing mathematical model to AI, and the work is vast. If you have those the fire in the belly, please join, do something, and you will definitely find your way out to your job, to your profession, and you will also feel happy about it.
Yeah.
So that is what I'd like to say to the younger generation and submit.
Beautiful. Uh, Bappaditya, I know I'll just squeeze in one last question. Since we are Kolkata calling, we have to ask. You've been based here throughout. You know made impact, brought changes from here. From your lens, how do you see Kolkata, Bengal? What can we do more of, and what can we do less of?
I am a passionate Kolkata lover. Whenever my any friends come from either from other cities or from other parts of the globe, I take at least, I always request one day with me to have a tour of Kolkata, because I because Kolkata is the Renaissance point of India.
Hmm.
Kolkata is the first city where from the first Urdu newspaper even started. Kolkata is the city which is so much full with variety, with plurality, be it in language, be it in the race, religion, and food. And there is so much of stories in Kolkata. So you walk around streets, you find stories from uh, every nook and corner, and that's what the beauty of Kolkata. And that is always a beauty of with any other cities. But it is also important to share that Kolkata has such a powerful rich history, which has contributed to the becoming of India. And
Hmm.
uh, to be someone as a Kolkatan, I would always refer Kolkata as the cultural and linguistic and the food nerve point of the country. And
Yeah.
so uh, what we could do more of is to celebrate what Kolkata already has. And what we could do less of is always to speak about a negative about Kolkata, because I I am running my organization, which is FCRA registered organization now, works with the Ministry of Home Affairs. I have started from scratch and build up this organization. So many people now works here. They are salaried. Their families are supported by organization, apart from those whom we support and stand by. And there are so many young people who are trying to do amazing thing from Kolkata, and therefore the idea that nothing can happen from Kolkata is more of a propaganda, more of a story that is being told, and not the reality. You
Mhm.
can, and there is no part of the country which is challenge free, which
Yeah.
is free of the political challenges, which is free of other challenges. You'll find one or other challenges in a different part of the Kolkata, different part of the city, and different part of the country, and also in other part of the world. So you have to always see the challenges, you have to always face the challenge, and you have to work with it. So to me, we can always say very powerfully and lovingly, hello Kolkata, and we can say that we love you, and we can always say that we are very happy and privileged that we have known you.
Wonderful. Bappaditya, I'll say this again. It's been fantastic talking to you. A lot of learnings for me personally. A lot of things that I thought or did not think about enough. You made me think, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers will have that same experience uh, to understand where your privilege comes from, to accept it first, and then obviously make small acts of random kindness. I remember from a movie a long back ago, and a random act of kindness. Uh, do that, and we would love to be associated in our own way. We are a small Kolkata calling community, but anything that we can help with for Prantakatha or any of the other initiatives that you are managing, leading, we'd love to be associated with that. I know you have plans of doing many more things, which I'm sure once you are ready, we'll socialize to our audience as well when the time is right. But having said that, it has been a wonderful 90 minutes almost. Bappaditya. So thank you for taking the time amidst all the wonderful work that you're doing. We have not done this before, so I will see if this is okay. To close the podcast, if there is a poem or a song, because I know you are an orator, a singer, a performer, if there is a poem or a song that best encapsulates your journey or your learning or your optimism that you bring, uh, we'd love to hear, and we'll close the podcast with that.
um, I always keep saying to this to myself, which is again a song and also a poem by Rabindranath Tagore, uh, which is, I'm not saying it, I'm just saying these lines. বিপদে মোরে রক্ষা করো এ নহে মোর প্রার্থনা, বিপদে যেন কভু না করি ভয়, সহায় মোর না যদি জোটে, নিজেরও বল না যেন টুটে, এবং I'm just not remembering exactly the line. The feeling is that if you, even if you don't get that strength from outside,
Mhm.
you feel that strong from inside. And if I just may find out these lines, because this is very
Sure.
important for me, because these are a couple of the things which gives me the courage.
The stage is yours. And sorry for putting you in the spot. I know, but having a singer and orator, I thought, and since you love poetry, I thought, why not end the podcast with that? Please go ahead.
সহায় মোর না যদি জুটে, নিজেরও বল না যেন টুটে, সংসারেতে ঘটিলে ক্ষতি, লোভিলে শুধু বঞ্চনা, নিজেরও মনে না যেন মানি ক্ষয়। বিপদে মোরে রক্ষা করো, এ নহে মোর প্রার্থনা। বিপদে আমি না যেন করি ভয়।
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bappaditya, for humoring our request and ending this podcast with that beautiful poem, beautiful song by Tagore. Thank you so much for taking the time again. And please reach out to Bappaditya on LinkedIn, on prantakathaindia.org, as well as ComMutiny for young change makers. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this podcast. With that, we'll close it. Thank you,
Thank you.
Bappaditya.
Thank you, Shubid, and thank you, Hello Kolkata, for hosting such wonderful conversation. And please continue Hello Kolkata because this is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bappaditya.